Most men assume attraction follows logic. It doesn't. And the moment you realize evolutionary biology runs the operation, not reason, not fairness, not modern values, everything you thought you understood starts to unravel. I'm not here to soften this. I'm here because the pattern repeats itself across every culture, every generation, and pretending otherwise doesn't change what happens when biology overrides intention. Let me be direct about something that gets buried under layers of social performance. Humans are still animals. We've built cities, written laws, created dating apps, but underneath, the biological imperatives that kept our ancestors alive are still running. Women display fertility markers, men display resource capacity, and both sexes collect every signal that increases reproductive odds. None of this is accidental. The peacock spreads its feathers to signal genetic fitness. The female evaluates, selects, moves on if the display fails. We do the same thing. We just call it dating. Women dress to emphasize youth, health, curves that suggest fertility. Men accumulate status symbols, build muscle, demonstrate earning potential. And everyone pretends this is about personality. It's not. Personality matters later. Initial selection runs on older code. Now here's where most conversations derail. People assume this means women are shallow or men are superficial. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that preferences aren't random. They follow patterns. And those patterns exist because they worked. For thousands of years, they worked. Take the question everyone asks but rarely answers honestly. Do women actually prioritize status and wealth? The answer is yes, but not for the reasons most people think. When a woman is pregnant, she can't hunt. She can't defend herself against threats. She can't secure resources while carrying a child or recovering from birth. For at least 2 years, her survival, and the child's survival, depends on someone else. This isn't about greed. This isn't about materialism. This is about not dying. So yes, women are drawn to men who signal stability, men who can provide during vulnerability, men who won't disappear when things get difficult. And before anyone calls this outdated, ask yourself, has biology updated its software in the last 100 years? It hasn't. The man who can't hold a job, can't plan ahead, can't manage resources, he's not just unattractive romantically. He's a survival risk. Women's brains flag this, not consciously necessarily, but the evaluation happens, and it happens fast. But here's what gets left out. Research from the University of Texas asked both men and women what they prioritized in relationships. Early on, women leaned toward romantic appeal, but when the question shifted to long-term partnership, not casual dating, not short-term attraction, both sexes gave the same answers: loyalty, trustworthiness, affection, consistency. The difference appears in short-term contexts. If a woman is considering a one-night encounter, physical appearance matters significantly more. If she's evaluating a long-term partner, appearance becomes secondary. This distinction matters, but most people ignore it because it complicates the narrative they prefer. Now let's address another belief that doesn't hold under scrutiny. Do men actually prefer unintelligent women? Not in the way that question is usually framed. There's a concept in research called sexual exploitability. The term is clinical, not flattering, but it describes something real. If a man is thinking short-term, purely physical, no future planning, he's not evaluating intelligence, he's evaluating availability. A woman who seems less discerning is easier to access. That's the calculation. But shift the timeline. Move from casual to committed. Suddenly, the same man doesn't want someone incapable of independent thought. He doesn't want someone who collapses under pressure or requires constant management. He wants strength. Here's the part that confuses people. Men and women define strength differently. Women often define strength as financial independence, career success, not needing a man's income. But that's not what most men mean when they say they want a strong woman. They mean someone emotionally stable, someone who doesn't create unnecessary drama. Someone who can handle responsibility without resentment. Someone who doesn't view cooking a meal or managing a household as submission. This creates a disconnect. Women invest in careers thinking it makes them more attractive. Men notice the career but evaluate emotional steadiness. The signals don't match, and neither side realizes they're measuring different things. This isn't about rejecting ambition. This is about recognizing that what women think men want isn't always what men actually want. The definitions don't align. Let me give you something that surprised researchers. Women in their ovulation window, the narrow phase when pregnancy is biologically possible, prefer more dominant men, masculine features, assertive behavior, competitive traits. Outside that window, preferences shift toward softer, less aggressive types. This isn't cultural. This isn't learned. This is hormonal. The body is optimizing for genetic quality during fertility and prioritizing caregiving traits when fertility drops. And if a woman cheats during ovulation, the man she cheats with is often the opposite of her partner. Completely opposite. Ovulation doesn't just tweak preferences, it flips them. The same woman who feels safe with a gentle, nurturing partner suddenly finds herself drawn to someone rougher, more physically imposing, more difficult to control. She doesn't plan this. Her endocrine system does. And when the fertile window closes, the pull disappears. She returns to baseline, but the action already happened. Now, do women prefer men who resemble their fathers? Yes. But this isn't sentimental. It's imprinting. Early attachment shapes template formation. If a father was significantly older, daughters statistically select older partners. If the father-daughter relationship was hostile or absent, that conflict often reappears in romantic relationships, projected onto a partner who wasn't even present for the original wound. Men do this too. They seek women who replicate maternal warmth. Not because it's healthy, because it's familiar, and familiarity feels like safety, even when it's not. The childhood blueprint doesn't fade, it calcifies, and most people never realize they're selecting partners based on patterns set before they turned 10. Here's something else that plays out exactly as evolutionary psychology predicts. Emotional distance increases attraction early on. Not forever, but initially, yes. If one person shows excessive interest too quickly, the other person pulls back. The internal logic is simple. Why are you this available? What's wrong with you? What am I missing? But when both people maintain boundaries, limited time together, gradual disclosure, no desperation, curiosity builds. The other person's imagination fills in gaps. They construct a narrative, and that narrative is almost always more compelling than reality. This works short term. Long term, it breeds distrust. Eventually, people need transparency. But early on, restraint functions as a filter. It signals that you're not operating from scarcity. The person who texts constantly, who clears their schedule, who makes themselves endlessly available, they communicate low value. Not because availability is bad, because it suggests no one else is competing for their time. And humans are comparative evaluators. We assess worth relative to demand. Now let's talk about household labor. There was a study in 2013 that measured sexual frequency in relationships where men and women split chores 50-50. The result wasn't what people wanted to hear. Men in those arrangements had sex significantly less often. Not slightly less. 2 to 3 times less. The explanation researchers offered: when men perform tasks traditionally coded as feminine, washing dishes, folding laundry, hands on hips in the kitchen, it disrupts gender role perception. Women didn't consciously decide to withhold sex, but attraction dropped. And when attraction drops, desire follows. In contrast, couples where men handled traditionally male tasks, paying bills, fixing things, mowing the lawn, while women managed traditionally female tasks, reported higher sexual frequency. This doesn't mean fairness doesn't matter. It means attraction doesn't follow fairness. It follows biological templates that haven't caught up to modern ideology. You can argue this shouldn't be true, but the data doesn't negotiate. First impressions form in 3 seconds. You see someone, and your brain generates a preliminary file. Trustworthy or not, attractive or not, safe or not. But here's what shifts everything: exposure over time. As you spend time with someone, you see their flaws, you see their contradictions. And in that moment, the moment you realize they're just as human as you are, the initial attraction either strengthens or collapses. Time doesn't confirm first impressions. Time rewrites them. Do women want men to take full responsibility? To some degree, yes. But this isn't manipulation. It's risk assessment. Men face almost no biological cost from casual sex. A man can impregnate multiple women and walk away. Women can't. Pregnancy is 9 months of vulnerability, followed by years of dependency. So yes, women screen for men willing to stay, men willing to commit resources, men willing to shoulder burden. That's not entitlement, that's survival math. And men? Men seek variety because they can. Sperm is abundant. Pregnancy isn't their constraint. So their optimal strategy is different. Maximize access, minimize investment. This isn't moral or immoral. It's strategic divergence shaped by different reproductive costs. Even in monogamous relationships, men still notice other women. This doesn't mean they don't love their partner. It means their biology hasn't turned off. A healthy male brain still responds to fertility signals. That's not betrayal. That's function. The wife who discovers her husband still looks at other women often interprets this as dissatisfaction. It's not. It's baseline male neurology. Attention doesn't equal intent. But explaining this rarely helps, because the frameworks don't overlap. The pattern doesn't resolve. It just becomes visible. Once you see it, you don't unsee it.